What's up, y'all? This is my MTI 60-inch twin cat. I run it in FE Superboat with HOTMBC, the Heart of Texas Model Boat Club. It's a new class that we've started. Hopefully it catches on. And anyway, in NAMBA and IMPBA, there is no FE Superboat class. It's all gas. But what we've done is we've started a class, and we have quite a few boats in it, probably close to a dozen now. And our basic rules for now, of course, everything, as we figure out what works, what doesn't work, we'll make changes. But currently we're running 10S maximum, 20,000 milliamp hour maximum on the LiPo, and pretty much, hull minimum length 55 inches. So mine is 60 inches. So there's kind of a crossover from T-class to Superboat, but I will tell you, a T-class boat will have a hard time keeping up with these Superboats. The course is much bigger that we run, and the 12,000 milliamp in the T-boat, I don't think you're going to be risking your equipment trying to run the full course. So anyway, a lot of people have been asking me what my setup is, so I figured I'd just do a quick little video. Also show how I built the boat. So this is how I store the boat. My batteries are in storage voltage. These are my props. So I am running twin Castle 8S ESCs with TP5660s. So these are tiny little guys, but these are great motors, and I'm running this only on 8S, remember. So it is a 10S class, but I run Castles, and they do fine. This boat does mid-80s in oval trim without getting hot. In the beginning, or in the peak of summer, the motors were getting a little bit warm, so our water temperature was about 93 degrees, which is pretty hot, and my motors were getting up to 160 after a full race, a hard race. So I added their own water cooling. Okay, so initially I had it set up dual rudder pickup, all Speedmaster. Well, not all, I guess this is TFL. Dual rudder pickup. I was doing each hose to one ESC, and then the ESC to its respective motor. I've never really had a problem doing that, but whenever I was running the motors hot, let's see here, I added some hull pickups, one on each side, and that's 4mm ID aluminum tube. It's actually the same tube that I use here for the outlets and for the transom bulkhead fitting. So there's 2 outlets on each side. So these TFL stingers, you'll see that I have these spacers here. The reason I like these stingers is because, well, this is the power trim, but I don't use that. The reason I use these is because it's a 2-piece base, and I can stand off the stinger assembly from the hull whatever distance I want to get my prop offset off the transom, my setback, to get it where I want. Also, this allows you to make height adjustment without redrilling your holes. So this plate here, it stays this plate can move up and down, and these bolts don't have to move. On a normal stinger, to move your whole assembly up and down, you have to relocate the holes. On this one, the holes stay the same. You just loosen them, and this plate goes up and down. So luckily, I haven't had to adjust them. I got them in a pretty good spot right off the bat. You'll see here that I have, this is just some black silicone tube. The ID, or the OD of this silicone, matches the ID of the stinger. Goes all the way up in here. It butts up against the transom, creates a nice watertight seal. Also a watertight seal here, so that you're not shitting the grease out the front, or the water is not forcing its way in here and pushing the grease out. That is a weak point of this design of stinger, but with this rubber hose here, that sort of negates all that. But as you can see, Actually, no, this boat doesn't have all titanium hardware. My other twin. But yeah, so this is a Speedmaster Large with a dual pickup straight blade. This is the 6-inch standoff bracket. And a lot of people don't know, but Speedmaster, they do make a dual horn for the large series. On the small series, it comes standard with a dual horn, but you can have Harry Speedmaster. He does sell these, so you just have to ask for them. I don't know if OSE sells them. Okay, anyway, so back into the boat. You'll see I have a lot of yoga blocks. I'll pull them out so you can see what's going on inside the boat. I have 10 yoga blocks total in this boat, and I've done the calculation. One yoga block adds about 7 pounds of buoyancy. And in the front of the boat here, I got a bulkhead. That's carbon fiber plate attached to the bottom and the top. But the entire front of the boat, that's all foam. There's nothing up there. Actually, so I do have a battery right there. I guess it extends a little bit past the bulkhead, but everything is very accessible. And yes, that is a permanent bulkhead. So that foam is never coming out again, but it's fine. With 10 and a half or 11 yoga blocks, that's plenty of buoyancy to keep this thing afloat if it has a hull breach or capsizes or whatever. Okay, so back to the electronics. Castle 8S ESCs, TP5660s, 1/4-inch cables. So I do run a Speedmaster bushing in the front. You can see it there. It helps you get perfect alignment with the cable into the coupler. I run the bushing so that bushing is supposed to be in the, well, I don't have stingers or struts on the back. It's supposed to be in a Speedmaster strut on the back, but I'm running stingers. So all of my boats run these Speedmaster bushings in the front. And you'll see, I don't put my motors that close to the back. Some people put them all the way in the back, I guess for CG purposes, but you can also see how straight my driveline is. There's hardly any bend. All of the bend is over here at the transom. And it's just a little tiny kink. All of this here is straight. So if you have a lot of bend up here, then you can't use this bushing. But like I said, mine is straight all the way up to here. Got the motors nice and low. These motor plates are 6mm plate. They are pre-made for an Exocet 150. You can see the height difference. This is normally the top of an Exocet 150. And then there's like another 3 stories here on this boat. But it's epoxied in, the full flange, all the way around. And then I've actually also added, you can almost see it, carbon fiber cloth on both sides to stiffen it. That green there is the leftover of my painter's tape. Also note, I do not use rear supports. With this motor mount, I would feel comfortable running a 56 by 120, like a Castle 2028, without a rear support. This is super stout, especially because the entire boat is carbon fiber. Well, I've inlaid the whole boat. Carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber, everything. So there's plenty of strength there. Here's my steering. I typically don't like push-pull steering, but with truly parallel rods, I'm okay with it. I hate the cables. I will never run a boat with cables. This is the stupidest thing ever. I don't care about scale looks. It's just stupid. Oh, well, I run it just fine in my boat. Yeah, I mean, just fine for you. It's not fine for me. Anyway, this is a big part of I say the handling of my boats. You got to have a good servo. I mean, you got to. People underestimate how much force is on that rudder, especially on a big ass boat like this. So this rudder, this servo here is, I think it's like 900 ounces. So it's got plenty. It's probably overkill, but I'm telling you, you got to have a servo, like a strong servo that can that can hold that rudder still when you're trying to hold it at the angle you want when you're cornering at 70 miles an hour with a 30-pound boat. So it's hard to quantify or to prove that people's servos are weak, but the symptoms are a boat that will push out wide or it'll hook. So what's happening is a servo that's too weak, you're turning, and it'll stall out because the servo is no longer strong enough to turn the rudder, right? So you're turning, and then all of a sudden it stops. You're stalling out, and as soon as you let off the gas, because your boat's pushing wide and you got to slow down to make the corner, the force has lessened up on the rudder, and then it'll snap because the servo is no longer stalled out, and then the boat hooks. So a lot of people think that the hooking is part of their hull or whatever, but you know what? I'm telling you, it's the servo. And I've helped friends with their boat, and all we changed was a servo. And you know what? It doesn't hook anymore. So I would say a minimum 35 kilogram servo, and they're stupid cheap on Amazon, so there's no excuse not to do it. I think a 35 kilogram waterproof servo is like $28, you know? But if you have a Castle ESCs, a good way to check that is to data log it. So the way you would data log it on a Castle, make sure you turn on BEC voltage, and whenever your servo is stalling out, it'll pull extra amps out of your BEC. On this ESC, since it's a 20 amp BEC, it won't hurt it. You may see just a slight dip whenever it stalls out, but basically the voltage will drop on the BEC voltage because it's pulling so many amps whenever the servo stalls. Okay, anyway, so back to the setup of the boat, which is what I was supposed to be talking about. I'm running 4 batteries. 1, 2, 3, and there's another one over there. So each one is 10,000 milliamp, 4S. So there's 2 batteries per side. So this goes here, this goes here. You can see I have a series connection on the ESC. So yeah, 10,000 each. So that means it's going to be 8S, 10,000 total per side. So that's 20,000 on the boat, but each side only gets 10,000. And the boat does fine. I could probably run 5 laps and finish at storage voltage. Okay, so let's look at the back of the boat, the transom. This is the one part I did in carbon fiber. This is just black epoxy paint. Actually, it's dyed epoxy that we used as paint. But nothing fancy. I used stuffing tube for pass-throughs for the steering rod. This is 3mm steering rod. I use it on all my boats, whether it's a P-class or a Superboat. I used to just drill 1/4-inch holes and pull the hose through the transom. But the shitty part about that is if you have a cut here, or if you have a cut on the outside of the boat, you got to replace the entire length of hose. So now I just put tubes through the transom, epoxy those in place, and slip your hoses on them. I will say, when you start going fast, it seems about 80 miles an hour through this 5/30 seconds hose, 4mm ID, is about the limit for what these hoses can handle without popping off. After about 75, 80, you will start popping off these hoses. So zip ties everywhere. Zip tie, zip tie. Every single connection has a zip tie. They're dirt cheap. It's easy. Yeah, I get some people think they're kind of ugly, but you know what? You don't want your boat filling up with water whenever you bust the hose on the inside. Okay, so let's look at my hatch locks. It's just a plate of carbon fiber. I fitted and put it on the flange with epoxy. It's actually kind of ugly. I have some TFL nut certs inserted from the bottom because there's a flange on the bottom, that way they can't rip out. And then I have thumb screws on the top. My battery tie downs, you'll see that's the entire tie down system here. I have sticky Velcro on the bottom, on the hull. There's also sticky Velcro in, I think, 3 spots on the batteries on the bottom. So then the battery gets placed down, and these straps you can see here, these are just epoxy directly to the hull. This is the stick to itself Velcro. So all this is doing is maintaining pressure against this Velcro. This Velcro is doing all the work, keeping the battery still or in place. And then these just hold it against the Velcro, against the hull. It works great. Super solid. I haven't blown this boat over, but it's got a lot of force in here. And these batteries, they're not heavy. They're not light. It does fine. It's a lot cleaner too. I don't like rails. I don't like stands. I don't like any other bullshit that it's really just there to make your boat look nice. It's all just wasted space. And every little millimeter that you raise your equipment, that's your CG going up. So let's look at, speaking of CG, on this boat, I have the CG right here. I don't do numbers anymore. Just find the step where it wants to ride and put it behind it. On this boat, it actually has this weird mini step back here, but anyway, for setup, I aim for 11 millimeters height of prop shaft center line to the bottom of the ride surface, bottom of the transom. So your prop center line for me on this boat, I think, is actually 10 3/4 millimeter from the bottom here, from the ride surface. And my standoff here, I calculated, I try to get 10% hull length on my prop setback. So I forget what the calculation is here. I'm a little bit short of that. I think I'm like at 9% or about 4.5 inches. So my props are about back here. And they are even with the rudder, which I've experimented with rudder setback. I never really noticed a difference in terms of prop blast, prop wash, whatever. The big reason for me to go short or long on the rudder boom is because I want to keep the blade away from my props, so that when this bends, it doesn't take a prop with it. But yeah, that's about it. That video was a little bit longer than I anticipated, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask down below, or any comments, and I'll try to answer them. And hopefully we can get this FE Superboat class going, and maybe make it a real class for NAMBA next year. Alright guys, thanks for watching.